Hello, everybody. Welcome to the UFC 312 recap podcast with myself. And we're going to be talking about UFC 312, aka Duplessis versus Strickland 2, down in Sydney, Australia. And let's just get a quick overrun of this card real quick. Number one, did pretty well on the picks. We got a win with DDP, got a win with Weili Zhang, got a win with Tallison Teixeira, got a win with Jake Matthews, got a win with Wang Kong, got a win with Alexander Topuria, and got a win with Quillen Salkid. So, not bad. That's what, 7-4? And then the rare draw with the Jimmy Crute Rodolfo Bellato fight. Although I did think Crute won. I have no issue with the draw card. We'll get more into that later. The card was about as good as I expected. Honestly, probably a little bit better. The main event was pretty on par. The co-main was a little bit less than I wanted it to be. I suppose I wanted a little bit more of a back and forth, maybe a little bit. Whereas Suarez really just kind of had the first round and then kind of teetered out. So that was a little bit less fun than expected. Teixeira made short work of Tafa, no problem there. Crete versus Bellato was the best version of a fight between two guys who are not very good. And honestly, I think are flawed to the point where like the UFC probably shouldn't be booking them. But at the same time, had a really fun sloppy fight. So, credit where it is due. Jake Matthews Prado was probably a little bit worse than I expected to be. Santos versus Jenkins didn't quite live up to the expectations, although in its own way was very, very, very good. The performance by Gabriel Santos, magnificent. I'll have a lot of thoughts on that. Tom Nolan versus Borshev was, on one hand, better than expected because it was a way more competitive fight than expected. I expected Borshev to handle Nolan pretty easily. That did not happen. So in that regard, a better fight than I expected. But also, considering that I expected a really cool knockout, for that to go the distance is a little bit rough. Wang Kong, Bruno Brazil, about what I expected. Topuria versus Colby Thickness, about what I expected. Rongju versus Cody Steele, fight of the night, over-delivered like you would not believe. So that was a highlight. So was the Jonathan McAuliffe versus Kevin Jusay fight. That over-delivered a heck of a lot. And a quick knockout for Salkid. Salkilled. I am going to struggle with that name from now until the end of time. And I've been watching a lot of his fights. And I cannot wrap my tongue appropriately around that name. And I don't really know why. So Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland, the main event. I scored all 5 rounds for DDP. I think there are rounds you could score for Strickland, specifically the first round and the third round are close enough. I think, what was it? There were 2 I wanted to say that he had a shot at getting. I know the third was one of them. The third was his best round. It was the only round that he landed more strikes than DDP, which is key when you're Sean Strickland. And we know you don't have power. We know you're not a fight finisher. We know you're not a guy who wins on that kind of pop. I can't remember if it was the first or the third round that I thought he also had a case for winning. But I scored all 5 rounds for DDP. And the fight was basically what I kind of expected when it came down to it, is that Sean Strickland's not going to do anything different. Even when his corner is urging him to do something different and coming up with ideas and valid advice, actual legitimately good corner work, and he just cannot or will not implement it at all. And we'd seen that in the past. And it basically was that DDP came into this fight, and the first fight, his way of dealing with Strickland's style was, okay, I can hit him harder, I can eat the shot, I can go through, and I can make this messy at times. And in this fight, he was more like, you know what? I'm like the same reach as Sean Strickland. I'm the same height as Sean Strickland. I'm stronger than Sean Strickland. And I'm a more diverse range striker. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take the jab away. And if he hits me with the right hand, so be it. And he would be open palmed, parrying jabs, making it so that Strickland couldn't really have a great time, Also, not walking onto teeps, keeping it like at range. And Strickland had no answers. And of course, you still have the Strickland Patrol, the fans of Sean Strickland out there being like, you know what? He could still beat DDP. And I'm like, Sean Strickland either beats you the first time or he's not beating you. Like, that's all there is to it. Because Sean Strickland is a problem. He asks a singular problem. And that problem will never change. And once you have valuable solutions to that problem, you will beat him. And DDP has those solutions now. DDP, for being as dumb as I think he is, and as bizarrely clunky a fighter as he is actually capable of game planning around the idea of what he needs to take away. And it's not even just the Strickland fight. This goes back to like his Robert Whittaker fight. This goes back to a number of fights where, like, when you watch them and you're you're able to get over how kind of ugly it looks, you kind of realize that DDP actually has a lot of really good ideas for taking away the key, biggest, most commonly used weapons of his opponent. In some cases, there are fights that do not follow this idea. The Derek Brunson fight, for example, is just Brunson kind of destroying himself. But he actually does do that, and he does it pretty well. Somehow, it really, I don't know, like it's such a weird dichotomy in my brain that, like, I watch him fight and I'm like, this is the worst technical fighter to have ever won a UFC title outside of like heavyweight. But he is actually smart and actually does game plan. And it's so weird. It's so weird. Anyways, next stop for both of these guys is, I think, pretty obvious, honestly. DDP, it's Khamzat Chimaev. And I know Imavov has done more to get the title, and there are people calling for that, but it's just not a compelling fight. And you do have a compelling fight with Chimaev on the table. I know Chimaev's achievements at 185 are pretty limited, but like, he did beat Robert Whittaker, and like, that is a big deal. So like, I think you got to give him the shot. And for Strickland, it's really just Whittaker, because what else is there? Like, he's kind of fought everybody else. Like, if you look at the UFC rankings, which I, should have had handy before I started this, there's just nobody else there. He's fought DDP twice. He also has a win over Imavov. You're not going to put him up against Chimaev. He's beaten Israel. I would keep him away from Kyle Bahayo. He's fought Cannonier. I don't think he's ever fought Marvin Vettori, but like, Marvin Vettori is at a pretty low point right now, where he's taking fights with like Robin Delidze. So it's not an option. in a nutshell, we're not doing that. He's fought Brendan Allen. Oh God, don't make this man fight Robin Delidze. Oh boy, that would be terrible. And then we're down outside of the top 10 with like Paulo Costa, Anthony Hernandez, Michel Pereira, Roman Kopylov, Bo Nickel. None of those fights make any sense. So like, yeah, it's Whittaker or like a long time off until something shakes loose, really. Weili Zhang versus Tatiana Suarez. This was a fight that I was hoping for a little bit more from Suarez out of, and I'm not blaming her performance or whatever. I'm just saying that was the hope. But I probably gave her round one. She had the not great submission attempt with a guillotine, but she got the takedown. She had 3 minutes of top control or whatever it was. Did get reversed by Zhang, and things went badly after that. And then she lost round 2 very clearly, lost round 3 very clearly, lost round 4 very clearly, lost round 5 very clearly. She even had this one moment, like the moment I think I knew it was not going to go well was, I think it was in the second round. Maybe it was in the third, where you get good positioning for Suarez and she goes for a lateral throw, which was funny because Rodolfo Bellato kind of tried something similar, ended up getting mounted by Jimmy Crute, and like kind of the same thing happened. She just ended up on her back with Zhang on top of her, basically mounting her. And it was like, this is not going to go well. All the thoughts of this being a terrible stylistic matchup for Weili Zhang that I had evaporated at that point, and I felt way better about my Zhang pick. And hey, the money I took home from that, from her getting underdog odds, which is still kind of insane. Like I didn't really get that. The whole even money in this fight was, I don't know. I felt disrespectful in a way. But anyways, Weili Zhang gets the win, and really all that's out there for her is Valentina Shevchenko in a super fight because Verna Jandiroba has the next title shot, but I have no weird interest in that. And I don't think anyone else really will. And then for Suarez, I've got the winner of Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo because I really need to see her matched up against like other powerhouses in a wrestling slash clinch slash grappling sense for me to get really any thoughts about where she's going to be, because there's very little of that on her resume. It's basically just Jessica Andrade, because Montella De La Rosa, Nina Nunez, these are not powerhouses. Carlos Barza, Alexa Grasso, Viviana Pereira, Amanda Cooper. I guess Amanda Cooper is technically a powerhouse, but like an incredibly raw one. So yeah, I would say the winner of that fight is the one to make. And then Tallison Teixeira just destroyed Justin Tafa. I have no additional thoughts. I'm not really sure how deep I'm supposed to get into a 35-second knockout. There you go. Teixeira, I don't really know. He's in this kind of vacant area of heavyweight where there's like just no one. Like almost like anyone above Tafa almost feels like this kind of like too far of a jump up for a guy that I think you need to baby and like let develop. But at the same time, I don't want to go backwards. And that leaves me with like really very little of what I want to do with it. And then Tafa just gets a banger because I don't want to see Justin Tafa get wrestled. Like Justin Tafa is firmly in the gatekeeper. I am going to be an action fighter mold for the rest of my career, and that's realistically all there is to it. And then we get to Jimmy Crute, Rodolfo Bellato. This was the fight where Bellato, in fact, did pull mount position and spent almost 4 minutes on his back, getting beaten up pretty badly by Jimmy Crute and even getting knocked down towards the end of the round. So it was a dominant round, probably the most dominant round of the night for Jimmy Crute. It's the only 10-8 I gave. And then the second and the third round was kind of like Crute running out of gas a little bit, getting his leg beat up with low kicks. We've seen his leg turn up before from low kicks. It was the Anthony Smith fight. So I was kind of worried that was going to happen the whole time. I still think he won the second round, but he got pretty clearly outworked in the third round by Bellato when he ran out of gas and, let's be honest, was on an unstable leg at that point. So obviously, harder to fight at that point. And Bellato was just landing the better shots, the cleaner shots, and more shots through the second and third round. Gets himself a draw. I'm not angry with the draw. I did have, I think it's Mark Collette who scored the fight 29-27 for Crute. That is my card, but 28-28 is fine. There's no problem there. I don't really know what to do with either of these guys, so I'm just gonna go fun with Jimmy Crute and give him Devin Clark, because they're both like guys who are fundamentally like very brutish, and they're just gonna do this over and over again. Just gonna collide into each other in the clinch, and why not? And Bellato I've got against Magomed Gadzhiyashilov, because I don't know what to make of either of them. Like, in the sense that, like, there are things about them I think are actually quite good, but there's a lot of gaps, and they're like fatal gaps that should just doom them. So why not put them in there with each other, and one of them will emerge victorious, or we'll get another draw. Jake Matthews versus Francisco Prado. The only thing I really have to say about this is that Prado's corner doesn't know their own fighter, which is always a bit of a problem, because they're like, he would go back to the corner and they're like, okay, we need to get our reach going. We need to get our range game going. We need to get our work behind the jab. And it's like, these are not things Francisco Prado ever does. And I understand that we don't know what they're working on in the gym. And I also understand that Prado has recently gotten to a new gym, but like, it's not going to happen. This guy is allergic to a range game. He is a pocket hook brawler, dyed in the wool. So you're going to have to go with that and make that as the way to win. Also, how the heck are you going to jab against Jake Matthews, who's a giant compared to him? I know the height difference is only 1 inch, but the reach difference is what, 3.5, 4.5 inches? Something like that. And Matthews just looks way bigger out there. Like, it's just not going to work. Prado supposedly cuts from about like 190 or at least 185. If so, that dude has some heavy bones because he does not look it. And my matchmaking is pretty clear about it. Matthews called out Neil Magny. No one should be doing that. No one should ever be doing that. You do not want Neil Magny. You are not going to get credit if you beat him. You are not going to, and you're going to get all kinds of problems if you lose to him. So why would you want that fight? I've got Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott's been impressing me lately, and I think that would actually be a fun stylistic matchup. I know that that's lower down the card than Neil Magny is, but like if you're and to be clear, if Matthews had called out Oban Elliott, I'd be like, what are you doing? But like, call out someone up ahead of you in the rankings, but who you can like get credit for actually beating. Like, it's just a dumb call out. And for Prado, it's get back to 155. I know it's hard cutting down from 185. That's a 30-pound cut. That's huge. That's big. That's unhealthy. But at 170, this is just the kind of fight that this is like the best case scenario fight that you can have against anybody that's not just terrible. Jack Jenkins, Gabriel Santos, like I said, that was really, really fun. I expected more, mostly because like I had hopes for like Jenkins, and that didn't really work out for me. I had him winning the first round. Obviously, he dropped Santos with the kick, but then just got really just kind of taken down a lot. 3 minutes and 48 seconds top control in the second round. 1 minute 41 seconds in the third round, leading to the rear naked choke stoppage after, 206. So yeah, he just couldn't really stop Santos's wrestling game from going on. And of course, stand-up wise, Santos is a buzzsaw. He will do a lot of stuff and he will hurt you. So there is that too. I just have to come to the grips with the fact that even though I watch Santos and go, there's no way this guy should be out wrestling and manhandling people, he just is. Like, I have to realize that like he's out there scoring 4 takedowns on Jack Jenkins, and scoring 5 takedowns on Lerone Murphy, and scoring takedowns on David Onama. And like, I just have to accept the fact that like, it doesn't look right. It doesn't click with my eyeballs that he is a functionally good wrestler. He just is. And I need to handle that. I guess in a nutshell, he gets the rear naked choke victory here. I've got him against Christian Rodriguez, another guy who is deceivingly physical. And then I've got Jenkins against Julio Arce, but I should really stop using Julio Arce as much as I do, because Julio Arce is very inactive and I match him up with a lot of people. And it's like, it's not just that he's not going to, make it to the fights I'm calling for. He barely makes any fights, but I'm still sticking with it. I think that would be a phenomenal fight. It would be incredibly entertaining, and let's make it happen. Tom Nolan versus Slava Borsho. This was Tom Nolan doing a pretty good job, actually, all things considered, but also like Borsho being bad. Like there were moments in the third round where like I really, really, really wanted way more from him, and he would just make like bad fight IQ choices. He would actually like, he reversed a takedown and got top position and like was doing some good things and like really actually looking at there. But like Nolan came out there and he did what I didn't expect him to do, which was wrestle Borsho a fair bit, keep him off balance, utilize his reach very well, threaten the knee nicely, creative striking. I don't know. Is he putting things together, or is it just that Borsho is very one-dimensional and at the wrong gym? I've kind of said this like repetitively. Every time I crap on Team Alpha Male, I want to be clear. I think Team Alpha Male is a perfectly serviceable gym. I just think that you have to be a very specific type of fighter for their coaching and their system to pay off. And it's not Slavoclaws. So at 33 years old, he needs to go somewhere else to become better. For Nolan, I've got Trey Ogden. The reason I say Trey Ogden is because Trey Ogden is the kind of guy who will kind of find the range and like, I don't know. It keeps bugging me that Nolan is a 6'3" lightweight. And it's not that that bugs me. It's just that I keep taking that into account that like a lot of his success just comes from having a massive frame for the weight class, like a frame that would not be out of place at like say middleweight. And yeah, I think Ogden would be a nice a nice feeler for that. Borshow, my dream fight would be Brad Riddell, but Brad Riddell's in like pseudo retirement/retirement, and we're not getting that. But so I'll put Natan Levy in there instead. Kong Wang just outclassed Bruno Brazil in a kickboxing match, and I don't really have much else to say. I've got her against Ariane Lipski. I don't like the fight because Lipski's on a 2-fight skid and may very well beat Kong Wang, but she's about the only person ahead of the Joker that I don't think would just instantly try to make it a clinch and grappling fest, which I'm not saying that would instantly beat Kong. My problem is I don't want to see it. So yeah, Ariane Lipski dos Santos, to use her married name, would be, or is it De Silva? I forget now. I forget. Ariane Lipski. Ariane De Silva. There you go. Okay. She would be my pick because she's the best bet to have a fun time with. And Bruno Brazil, back to 115, although you're big enough to be 125 to be clear. But I think we saw a lot in this fight that like she's just not comfortable being on the losing side of a reach battle. And if she's not going to do that, she's got a 65.5-inch reach, which is good for strawweight, but it is not that long at flyweight. And I've got her against Josephine Knudsen. I think that would be a fun fight. Alexander Topuria won decision against Colby Thickness. So I have a different take than I think a lot of people I'm seeing on this fight. It's a similar take in some ways. Like with Alexandre Topuria, I do think that like he has the same kind of base game that Ilya does, that his brother has, but without the high-end physicality. It's not that he's a bad athlete. I want to make that clear. But you see it in that he replicates the flaws of Ilya's footwork, but doesn't have Ilya's explosiveness to make up for it. But he does have good power. He is strong. Thickness was having no luck on the ground with him and no luck getting him there and no luck standing in the pocket with him. Thickness was, I think, concerned to even really trade power shots with him, which is not an insult because I imagine Topuria hits really hard for bantamweight. And in Thickness's case, a lot of people are like, he's an interesting prospect. I'm like, I just don't see it. I just think that he lacks the horsepower required to actually work. Like, I have no doubt that this kid tries really hard. No doubt whatsoever. And has a bucket load of heart. But I think he's just missing something. So I've got him against Dana White Contender Series Slaughter. I've got Topuria against Cody Haddon, which was the fight this was supposed to be. So rebook that and make it happen because I want to see it. And yeah, I scored all 3 rounds for Topuria. There wasn't really anything that I thought Thickness actually really won. Like, there were ideas, there were scrambles, there was an attack on a Kimura at one point. There was, I don't know, it just felt like he wasn't able or wasn't willing to stand in exchange with Topuria. And it really ruined it, even though he threw way more shots, 131 total to 110. He just wasn't landing a lot. And what he was landing did not have power. And of course, he also went 0 for 8 on takedowns, which, needless to say, not great. Ended up on bottom for a lot of round 3. Anyways, then we had Cody Steele versus Rong Zhu. This was my fight of the night because I like it when I'm wrong and a fighter actually shows a massive new wrinkle to their game. Not that Rong Zhu necessarily showed a new wrinkle here, but like a lot of things that Rong Zhu has been working on, they clicked in this fight. Now, it was helped by the fact that Cody Steele is a very raw striker who also was unable to get takedowns. And a lot of actually what was good about him on the regional scene pertaining to like the body work and stuff was not there. So Cody Steele did not fight up to his hype or my expectations for him. But that doesn't mean that Rongju didn't really perform very well. The feints were there. He drew some things out. He hit some counters. He's still not the most durable guy on the planet. He still got hurt, still got rocked by steel. But this was a masterful performance by him. And despite the fact that he's very, very deep into his career, like 30 plus fights, he's still only 24 years old. So I don't know. Maybe Rongju can really become something. I've got him against Nicholas Moda, and I've got Cody Steele against Dana White Contender Series fodder. Then we have Kevin Jusay versus Jonathan McAuliffe. I won't say that I was really surprised by McAuliffe. He fought like I thought he would. Very kick heavy. I like the body kicks. I do. But everything's kind of very naked. Not very well set up. And Jusay just could not deal with the fact that he was fighting a southpaw. So I picked Jusay. He lost. McAuliffe performed well. But the flaws that I saw in him, I think, are there. He's not the most defensively sophisticated fighter on the planet. A lot of his strikes are very naked and very like power based, one and dones, which I think that if he fights somebody who can jab a southpaw, and to be clear that might actually be a problem because MMA and dealing with southpaws are always bad. Or someone who's just going to like swarm and be like a little bit more comfortable in the firefight than Jusay is, I think he'd be in trouble against. But hey, he got his win here. He got the job done. He left an imprint of a literal imprint on the body of Kevin Jusay. So congratulations, Jonathan, the Captain McAuliffe. You've got this one, but I still don't know how much I believe in you. I've got Johnny Parsons next for him if he's still around. Parsons has not fought since 2023, which is weird because the Sluggernaut is a fan-friendly fighter who was doing fine. So I don't know why he would not be here anymore. And Jusay I've got against Basil Hafes in a battle of dudes Jack Della Maddalena beat. And then, Quillen Salkild destroyed Ansel Jubilee with like the first punch he landed in the fight with any commitment and knocked him out. And that was about it. So for next opponents, I've got Salkild against Loic Radzhabov, if he's still around, because Radzhabov is a really tough guy. And I do still kind of wonder how much of the venom and the violence of Salkild is a product of his competition and how much is a product of what he can actually do. Because I don't think Jubilee's particularly durable and, of course, not very tough and not very defensively sound. And, Jubilee I've lost faith in because he's talking a very, very big game. Like, I mean a very, very big game. And there is nothing to back that up. Don't get me wrong, I get it. MMA fighters and self-belief to the point of self-delusion is almost a requirement. But this is, it's too much. It suggests that there's just not really a process going on or a confrontation of his limitations in training that will actually allow for actual improvement. I'm not saying cut him. He's 0-2 in the UFC. And, he is a road to the UFC winner. But I don't really know who I would trust in the face. He's got, again, I said this in the preview, and I stand by it. He's got the physical capabilities. He's got the physical tools. I don't trust that there is anything else there is the problem. So that was UFC 312. I hope you enjoyed my recap. I will be back. I'm aiming for Wednesday of next week. But I don't know. It might not be. Well, I guess Wednesday of this week. But I probably won't be watching the fight live this weekend. So we'll see. What do we got coming up here? What do we got? I haven't looked. I know it's that. Excuse me. I know it's Hobocop versus Jared Cannonier, but I don't remember what else is on the card here. Other than I think I was unimpressed by it. Here we go. Cannonier versus Rodriguez. Calvin Kattar versus Yusuf Zalal. That's fun. Edmund Shabazian versus Dylan Budka. What is wrong with you? Ishmael Bonfim versus Nazim Sadikov. That's fine. Andre Petrosky versus Adolfo Vieira. That's fine. I mean, if you're going to match up Petrosky and Vieira, might as well do it against like other like power-based grapplers. Connor Matthews, Jose Delgado. Connor Matthews is not very good. Not very good at all. Angela Hill versus Ketlin Souza. I like that. That's a battle of like clashing veterans. Cowie Fernandez versus Jared Gordon. That's fine. Rafael Estevan versus Jesus Aguilar. Why are we booking Estevan at 125? The dude is not going to make weight. But that's a fine fight. Chaos Williams, Gabriel Bonfim, Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. I'm not familiar with Elijah Smith. Contender Series guy that I'm just the Contender Series guys, for the record, just kind of blend in together with me. I don't see it. Anyways, I'll have to look into him. Dontel Mays, Walter Walker, and Julia Avila versus Jacqueline Calvacanti. Listen, that's not going to be a great fight. But why are we opening the fight card up with 2 ranked fighters? The only fight on this card outside of the main event that is a ranked fighter taking on a ranked fighter, and it's opening the card. In fact, it is the only one, because actually, apparently, Hobo Cop isn't even ranked. So there you go. And Dontel Mays is number 14 ranked guy at heavyweight. So higher up the card. Don't get me wrong. Those are not good fights, but like, you have other not good fights here. Like, throw Connor Matthews on the undercard, please. It's not that that might be a decent scrap. Not super familiar with Jose Delgado right now. I probably am, and I'm just not remembering him. But Connor Matthews is not main card material. Anyways, links down in the description for social medias, the video game stuff. I'll be streaming tomorrow night on Twitch. I hope you enjoyed, and peace out.